Detours welcomes Craig Streeter, London Wheelchair Rugby Club Vice Chair and social media expert over there. Craig, there's so many things about the club over there in Great Britain that's had so much success. But I'd like to talk a little bit about your life and what sports has done for it. When you look back at, as you passed through rehab and, went through those struggles that we all went through, what do you think that sport ultimately did for you as you went through that process?
I think the best way to put it is give you a purpose, almost, or give me a purpose. Something to concentrate on, focus on, progression. I love progression in something that I'm learning or, trying to excel at. And a social aspect as well. People that have, like I said, been through similar aspects of your disability or injury, just living with a disability. A social aspect is great to have there. I think sport for me has a little bit of everything. It's the physical aspect. Wheelchair rugby in particular is very tactical, so there's a mental aspect behind it. You have to be clever at the game to be good at it, to excel. You have to be physically strong, in your classification. So I think, just a little bit of everything, When I first started, I could only rock a chair backwards and forwards I was still in an electric wheelchair when I jumped into a rugby chair. I could only rock it a little bit, but as I progressed through training, doing weights and dynabands at home, it does obviously makes you physically stronger, but being that little bit physically stronger, I can do a little bit more for myself, which makes me a little bit more independent, and that's great for my mental health, as well as being physically stronger is great for my mental health as well, and just the working out in general. After a wheelchair rugby session, there's nothing like it. I feel exhausted, but in a good way. I can't get that exertion from much else.
Craig, when I was reading a little bit of your bio, you were talking a little bit about how you trained for the Great Britain squad. You worked really hard. You made it to a developmental level, but you never gave up. Talk a little bit about what it's like, not only to succeed, but sometimes when you don't ultimately reach your goal, where you wanted to get all the way to the elite squad, but you still persevered. So talk about what sport did for you and how you move forward.
Yeah, I think learning to adapt maybe to other goals in your life that you want to pursue, and dealing with, of course, there was disappointment, but learning to deal with that made me stronger. And I could have carried on pursuing the goals as a player, but my goals in life changed, and I was happy with that. And learning to deal with that was a bit of a struggle, but once you get through it, I think you're a stronger person. I could never leave wheelchair rugby behind completely. I had to have it in my life. I always will. So I think, of course it was disappointing thinking that I'm not going to reach the elite squad. I could have trained, even harder, and really tried to push myself even further. But I just found I wasn't getting enough of the game as a whole in just my classification, which is why I sort of changed to pursue coaching a little bit, and then sort of just the media side took over, and I really enjoyed that. So yeah, the sport itself being in my life, I could never leave. So I mean, the biggest one to start off with, or one of the biggest, was Bob O'Shea. So he's the husband of my staff nurse in hospital. He's a retired Paralympian, and he's been in the game almost since the very beginning. And he was coaching at the time that I came out of hospital, so looking up to him. Any Paralympian that is part of our club, I'll look up to, just because of their experience and what they've been through, and the level they've played the game at the highest level. So, you can't get much more experience than that. Our head coach and chairman, Steve Palmer, he's been a great influence in almost every role that I've played during in wheelchair rugby, just sort of advising and helping me, get through it and learn what I can. There's a lot.